Usually when we talk about interacting with a machine, there's this baseline expectation of pure utility. Like, it's a calculator, right? You punch in a complex math problem, it spits out an answer.
And you certainly don't expect it to suddenly pause and ask, how you're feeling about your workload today.
Exactly. It's purely transactional. The boundaries of what that tool is and what it isn't are completely visible to us, or at least they were.
Yeah, those boundaries are completely dissolving now.
They really are. I mean, I'll admit it. I caught myself the other day typing please and thank you into a large language model. I actually felt this tiny ping of guilt when I closed the window without saying goodbye.
Oh, absolutely. It's an evolutionary glitch, honestly.
Right. And that is exactly the hook for today's deep dive. We are exploring what happens to the human brain when we mistake a machine's sophisticated fluency for actual conscious understanding. Because right now, the calculators sound like they actually care about you.
And that glitch, that tendency we have to anthropomorphize literally anything that speaks to us, is being weaponized. It's fundamentally muddying the waters of human connection, meaning, and, trust.
So we're pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources today to build out a survival toolkit for you, the listener. We're going to be drawing heavily on the Deru Kailo framework.
Specifically diving into the concepts from reality, perception, and meaning, and the coherence principle.
Yeah, and later on, we'll look at a striking historical and moral lens on this exact issue from a Jordan B. Peterson transcript. The ultimate goal here, the mission of this deep dive, is to help you maintain your cognitive sovereignty in a digital landscape that is, quite frankly, designed to capture it.
Which means we really need to start by severing this link in our minds between language generation and sentience.
Okay, let's ground this in the most intimate scenario the Deru Kailo text outlines, because I think we can all relate to this.
Yeah, the late night scenario.
Exactly. Imagine someone sitting in their room late at night. They are feeling completely overwhelmed, maybe going through a crisis, and they open an AI chatbot and type, "I feel completely lost. I don't know what to do."
A very vulnerable moment.
Very. And within milliseconds, the AI responds. And the tone is warm. The sentences are beautifully constructed. It says, "I understand how hard this must feel. You are not alone."
Right.
And the person reading it actually exhales. Their nervous system regulates. For a fleeting moment, they feel, held.
Which is incredibly powerful and also deeply problematic. To understand why, the Deru Kailo framework asks us to dissect this interaction through 3 distinct layers.
Okay, let's break those down.
So if we start at the foundational level, the physical layer, what actually happened? The reality is pretty stark. A human applied kinetic pressure to plastic keys, and a remote server altered the electrical states of pixels on a screen.
Wow. Yeah, when you put it like that.
Right, there's no empathy in the server rack, it's just hardware.
But our brains are fundamentally incapable of just staying at that physical layer, right? We immediately jump to the meaning of the words.
We do, but the framework warns us not to skip the structural layer. This is where we have to view the technology for what it actually is.
Which is what?
It's an engineered technical structure. It's a mathematical model. When you ask it a question, it is not referencing a lived experience to empathize with you. It is running a hyper-fast statistical calculation to predict the next most mathematically probable word based on, billions of parameters of human text it ingested.
So it's essentially a massive, high-speed autocomplete. It's just mapping the mathematical proximity of the word lost to the word understand.
Precisely. It is entirely devoid of human responsibility. But because the output is so flawless, human beings automatically apply the 3rd layer, which is the symbolic layer.
And the symbolic layer is where we project our own humanity onto the text, isn't it?
Exactly. That mathematically generated sentence comes to represent companionship or care or a safe harbor.
We take fluency, which is just the seamless execution of syntax, and we hallucinate understanding. We assume that because the system can describe pain beautifully, it must know what it feels like to be in pain.
Yeah, we confuse the map for the territory.
Oh, okay, let's unpack this with an analogy. It reminds me of the classic advanced parrot argument. But honestly, even a parrot has biological drives. This is more like a mirror that has memorized every reflection it's ever seen.
That's a good way to look at it.
The danger isn't that the mirror works well. The danger is when we start treating the reflection as if it's a real person in the room with us. It feels so personal because it's mimicking the exact cadence of human intimacy.
But we have to remind you, the listener, that personalization is fundamentally not a relationship.
Say more about that.
Well, a system can map your tone, adapt to your vocabulary, and retain your data indefinitely without ever caring about you. Retention is not memory.
Right.
A machine can respond to your crisis, but it has no skin in the game. It assumes no risk. It cannot be held accountable to you in the way another human being can.
Which makes us incredibly vulnerable. Because if we are this easily seduced by an AI's conversational fluency, we are completely defenseless against the invisible architecture that feeds us this information.
The algorithms.
Exactly, the algorithms. Because if you trust the illusion, you rarely question the mechanics creating it.
No, you don't. You just accept what's handed to you.
The text offers this brilliant thought experiment. Imagine two people living in the exact same apartment building in a major city. They wake up on the exact same morning, they look out the window at the same weather, they share the exact same physical reality.
But they both reach for their phones.
Yes. And because of the algorithms mapping their digital twins, they step into completely different emotional climates. One person's feed is a barrage of impending economic collapse and existential dread. The other person's feed is an endless loop of political outrage and interpersonal drama.
They are occupying the same physical space, but they are living in completely fractured digital realities.
And we have to use precise terminology here, according to the text.
Right, the algorithm isn't necessarily creating a fake reality.
The events, the news clips, the videos, they might be entirely factual.
Exactly. But the algorithm is constructing an arranged reality.
Arranged reality. I really like that distinction. But I want to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
If I go to my local library and I consistently check out science fiction novels, the librarian is eventually going to arrange a stack of new sci-fi books for me on the desk because they know my tastes.
Sure.
Isn't a recommendation algorithm just doing that at scale? Why is this suddenly crossing the line into something malicious or dangerous?
The distinction lies entirely in the optimization goal.
Wow.
And this is where we have to look at the underlying math.
Okay.
The librarian is optimizing for your human flourishing, your learning, or your enjoyment. An engagement algorithm on a digital platform is optimizing for attention capture.
Ah, I see.
It is operating in a latent space,
Yeah.
constantly updating a multidimensional map of your psychological vulnerabilities.
So it's not just finding things I like, it's finding things I can't look away from.
Exactly. If the librarian notices that the books you're reading are making you paranoid and aggressive, they might suggest a biography, or maybe just suggest you take a walk outside.
Right, they have a human boundary.
An algorithm has no such boundary. If it detects that outrage and paranoia keep you scrolling for an extra 45 minutes, which generates more ad revenue and behavioral data, it will exclusively feed you outrage.
Wow. It's tapping into intermittent reinforcement, like a slot machine.
It is a dopamine loop, plain and simple. The predictive system shows you a curated slice of the world. You react to it. Maybe you linger on a provocative video for 3 seconds longer than a calm one.
And the system registers that micro-interaction.
Yes. It learns that anxiety captures your attention. Over time, the most terrifying realization is that the algorithm isn't just predicting your behavior anymore.
It's actually training you.
Yes. It is actively training you to become easier to predict. It is narrowing your emotional bandwidth to fit its most profitable models.
And what's incredibly frustrating is how massive institutions, banks, healthcare networks, HR departments, they use these systems to launder human responsibility.
Oh, constantly.
You hear it all the time. I'm sorry, the algorithm denied your loan application, or this system flagged your resume.
It's the perfect shield. It makes a highly subjective human choice feel like an objective mathematical inevitability.
But algorithms don't remove human responsibility.
Not at all. They merely obscure it.
Yeah.
Someone engineered that system. Someone decided which data points mattered. Someone accepted a certain margin of error knowing it would disproportionately affect certain demographics.
So by pointing to the machine, institutions evade the moral weight of their own policies.
Exactly.
But let's push this even further, because it's bad enough when algorithms are arranging existing factual information to manipulate our attention, but we are crossing a new threshold now.
We really are.
The underlying information isn't just being sorted anymore. It's being entirely fabricated. We are shifting from algorithmic reality to what the Deru Kailo framework calls synthetic reality.
The shift from curation to pure generation.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. We are talking about deepfakes, photorealistic synthetic images, and cloned voices.
And they are so flawlessly rendered, they bypass our critical faculties completely. They get treated as witnessed evidence.
It fundamentally reminds me of the concept of Gresham's law in economics, where bad money drives out good money.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you find out your city has been flooded with absolutely flawless, undetectable counterfeit $100 bills, you don't just become suspicious of the fake money, you stop accepting all money.
Right, because you can't tell the difference anymore.
Exactly. The real bills become functionally useless because the baseline currency of trust has been totally destroyed.
That is the exact mechanism of synthetic media in our information ecosystem right now. Synthetic reality doesn't just inject falsehoods, it drastically raises the cost of discernment for everything else.
Meaning the cognitive load required to just figure out what is real becomes too heavy for the average person.
Precisely. Think about it. If every time you see a video of a politician speaking, or a photo from a conflict zone, you have to run a forensic analysis in your head.
Like, was this witnessed by a human? Was this generated by a prompt? Has the audio been cloned?
Yeah, you simply burn out. When the gap between a piece of information arriving and our ability to verify it becomes too wide, people retreat.
They just give up?
They surrender to cynicism, or they retreat into tribalism, only believing the synthetic media that happens to confirm their pre-existing biases.
And this collapse of shared reality doesn't just cause, political confusion. It causes profound existential and spiritual anxiety, which actually brings us to a really fascinating perspective from the Jordan B. Peterson transcript we reviewed.
It's a completely different angle on this.
Very different. And just to be clear to you, the listener, we're impartially reporting on his framework here because, well, it perfectly articulates the cultural unease surrounding these tools, regardless of where you might fall on the political spectrum.
Right. So what is Peterson's central thesis regarding this technological shift?
He views these advancements, specifically generative AI and synthetic media, through a deeply historical and moral lens. He frames this level of technological pretension as modern Towers of Babel.
That's a strong image.
It is. He's pointing to an unparalleled level of intellectual pride, where technologists aren't just creating tools, they're attempting to construct an alternative reality.
Drawing a direct parallel to the biblical narrative, essentially attempting to reach or perhaps supplant the divine order through human engineering.
Exactly. And he argues that technology itself isn't inherently malevolent, but its application becomes destructive when it attempts to replace human vulnerability with manufactured perfection.
It's like trying to build a world without friction.
Yes. He points specifically to things like the mass generation of synthetic images of women or the development of AI companions and sex robots. He actually refers to the creators of these frictionless simulations as the children of Cain, associating this specific kind of world building with a fundamental fall from grace.
It's a really striking articulation of a very real societal fear.
It really is.
When technology crosses the line from just assisting human life to simulating and replacing human intimacy, it strikes at the absolute core of our identity. Peterson's argument highlights the anxiety that we are eagerly building systems that replace the difficult, messy, and necessary reality of human connection with frictionless, manufactured illusions.
Frictionless is the perfect word. I mean, it is so much easier to interact with an AI companion that never challenges you, or to engage with a synthetic image that never demands anything of you, than it is to deal with a real, flawed human being.
But that friction is where meaning is actually generated.
It's where the growth happens.
Exactly.
So if the algorithms are aggressively training our attention and synthetic media is destroying our baseline of trust, how do we actually survive this? Short of throwing our phones into a river and moving off the grid entirely, how does an individual operate in this environment?
Well, we have to actively construct our defenses. The Deru Kailo framework defines this defensive posture as cognitive sovereignty.
Cognitive sovereignty. I like the sound of that.
It is the disciplined, intentional capacity to remain answerable to truth, to your own agency, to human dignity, and to repair.
And doing all that while inside these systems.
Yes, specifically while operating inside digital systems that are engineered to bypass your reflection. It is the active protection of your inner gate.
Okay, I want to make this intensely practical for you, the listener, right now. Let's say I'm scrolling on my phone and I see a highly charged video of a public figure saying something absolutely horrific. My heart rate spikes, my outrage is triggered, and my thumb is hovering over the share button.
A very common scenario.
How do I apply cognitive sovereignty in that exact microsecond?
You introduce friction by asking 4 specific questions. Number 1 is the signal. You have to pause and objectify what you are looking at. what actually appeared.
Okay, so I strip away the emotion. The signal is just a 15-second video clip with captions appearing on my feed.
Exactly. Just the facts. That you move to question 2.
Right.
The source. Who or what produced this? Was it witnessed by a human on the ground? Was it hallucinated by a generative model? Was it surfaced and injected into your feed by an algorithmic recommendation engine?
I see. So if it's from some anonymous account and the audio seems slightly detached, I have to question the source. What's the third question?
Agency. Who benefits from this signal and who is accountable for it?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, if this video is a synthetic fabrication designed to cause panic, who is harvesting the engagement? And if it causes real-world harm, does the platform distributing it carry any consequence?
Usually the answer is no, they don't. Which brings us to the final question, I assume.
Response. What boundary or verification is required before you act? Do you need to cross-reference this with a trusted human-led news organization? Or do you simply need to close the app and take a breath?
Those 4 questions, signal, source, agency, response, they're like incredible circuit breakers. They stop the dopamine loop dead in its tracks.
They do, but those practical questions only work if they're anchored by 4 deeper philosophical loyalties. You must maintain a loyalty to truth, which is your only defense against synthetic illusion. A loyalty to your own agency, protecting your attention from automated capture. A loyalty to dignity, refusing to accept systems that reduce you or others to mere data points. And finally, a loyalty to repair.
Repair is an interesting one.
It's arguably the most vital, because you will be fooled. Systems will fail.
We're all human.
Right. If you don't maintain a loyalty to repair, the constant barrage of manipulation will drive you into total, sterile cynicism. You have to believe that when trust is broken by technology, human beings still have the capacity to rebuild it.
So what does this actually demand of you today? It demands the realization that when a digital system feeds you an answer effortlessly, when it gives you exactly what you want to hear or exactly what triggers your outrage with 0 friction, you still possess the ultimate agency to stop.
Yes.
You have the power to ask, what complex reality is being hidden to make this simulation so incredibly smooth?
If we synthesize everything we've covered today, you must actively resist the cognitive trap of mistaking a machine's fluency for conscious understanding.
Absolutely.
You must remember that algorithms are not neutral windows into the world. They are arranged realities designed to capture your behavioral data. And as synthetic media floods our ecosystem, cognitive sovereignty is no longer optional.
It is a fundamental survival skill.
Yeah. Technology is not inherently malicious. It can synthesize vast amounts of data, accelerate medical breakthroughs, and bridge global communication. But its utility does not automatically entitle it to our unverified trust.
Wow. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to carry with you. The Deru Kailo texts talk about the absolute necessity of building an adaptive civilization.
Which is a society that observes reality, makes mistakes, feels the pain of those mistakes, and repairs its structures.
Exactly. But think about the trajectory we are on right now. If our core institutions, our courts, our hospitals, our financial systems increasingly rely on predictive AI to make high-stakes decisions, are we actually building a society that learns from its mistakes?
That's the big question.
Or are we just building a system that optimizes and automates its historical biases at the speed of light?
I think that is the defining tension of the next decade.
The next time a screen tells you what to feel or a language model speaks to you with the warmth of an old friend, remember the statistical autocomplete. Remember the latent space. You are the human. You are the one who actually feels, who actually understands, and who possesses the sovereignty to decide what it all means. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay sovereign, and we'll see you next time.